disappointing, that it doesn't go both ways, or it hasn't gone both ways. But we also can't allow that to consume us, right? Like, we've got to be able to play through that. We've got to be able to control the things that we can control.
Listen, this wasn't the first time Indiana felt like they were playing against two teams, the opponent in front of them. And the refs with the whistles, from the very jump, it was obvious who the favoritism was tilted toward. Game 1 actually laid out the blueprint for it. When Vegas couldn't get their offense going, they just leaned on free throws to claw their way back. Meanwhile, Indiana's physical defense, where they bodied up cleanly, magically turned into foul trouble for them whenever the refs felt like it. The Aces were throwing elbows, and the Fever were getting tagged for breathing too close. That double standard wasn't subtle at all. It was screaming at anyone who was actually watching.
Steph, why don't you think you were able to find any flow, and when that was the case, what are you trying to do to jumpstart things, maybe on the defense?
Well, it's hard for us to find flow when there's a foul call every 10 seconds. I mean, it just really is. And when they're at the free throw line, we can't get up and down the floor. And that's a challenge. They were much more aggressive and physical defensively. We didn't counter that with our off-ball actions or with our back cuts. So they took us out of our comfort zone. I mean, offense is about rhythm. It's about timing. It's about spacing. We allowed them to do that, and they kept us from doing it.
By Game 2, it was undeniable. Those whistles didn't just appear out of nowhere, they absolutely dictated the pace of the game, yanking Indiana out of their rhythm again and again, and by Game 3, that bias had just become this massive wall the Fever couldn't even climb over. The moment that showed it best, it happened in the third quarter. Aaliyah Boston, who's basically Indiana's anchor, challenged a foul call on Jackie Young. Stephanie White instantly signaled for a review. The bench was ready, the fans were holding their breath, but the officials, they just acted like nothing happened. They completely refused to even acknowledge the request. Seconds later, Chelsea Gray nailed a three, and that flipped all the momentum right on its head.
Asia Wilson is 1 for 12 as a foul is called on Boston, and that will be number 2 on Aaliyah Boston.
You saw Indiana picking up full court pressure defensively, and if you're Aaliyah Boston, that's the one spot on the floor you do not want to get a foul called.
And Stephanie White is trying to challenge it and did not call the timeout in time. Gray in the corner. Cut it!
What had been a really hard-earned Indiana lead was just ripped away. It wasn't because Vegas executed better. It was because of a call the refs wouldn't even let them review. The Gainbridge crowd just exploded in disbelief. Their cheers turned into boos and pure fury. Clips of that whole sequence spread online in minutes, with fans and analysts pointing to that exact moment as proof of rigging. And those breakdowns showed more than just one missed review. They revealed a consistent pattern of flops, elbows, and cheap shots by the Aces that were just magically invisible to the officials.
2-minute recap from last night. So Asia Wilson pushes Howard in the back. Howard pushes her in the back. It's a foul on Howard. Look at this. Aaliyah Boston gets totally fouled by Nalissa Smith. Like, it's obvious, but no call. And then Asia Wilson gets the call for not half as much. And then Nalissa Smith gets the call for not even getting touched. Here's a replay just to prove it to you. Yep, didn't get touched.
That's when this whole thing stopped feeling like an oversight and started looking a lot more like an agenda. Seriously, watch the tape. You see Aja Wilson bulldozing through Aaliyah Boston with her shoulders lowered like a fullback, and the play just goes on. Indiana defenders are getting tossed to the ground, but there's silence. Meanwhile, if a Fever player so much as brushed a jersey, the whistle blew like they'd committed armed robbery. This wasn't about Vegas outclassing Indiana with skill. It was about the refs handing them lifelines until the scoreboard finally tilted their way.
Follow it up by Lexie Hull getting called for the foul.
I thought it was egregious, honestly. I mean, I thought it was obvious. I felt like AB got one, had one going to the rim. They're in rotation. And then Lexie's, I felt like equally, we talk about, coming into the path, and it was an offensive player veering into the defensive player's path.
But here's the thing. Indiana proved they were different. Lesser teams would have just broken down. Most teams would have hung their heads, mumbled about how unfair it was, and totally folded. Not the Fever, and the symbol of that defiance was none other than Lexie Hull. Think about it. How often do you see a player who probably shouldn't even be on the court nearly flip the script of an entire playoff game? That's exactly what Hull did in those last few games. She was coming off a painful back injury from Game 1 and was listed as questionable every single game. Her warm-ups looked stiff, her movements uncertain, and it really seemed like she'd only play a few minutes as a placeholder. But Hull didn't just log minutes. She turned the night into her own personal showcase of resilience, the kind of performance fans will talk about long after this series is over.
You have drawn the most offensive foul in the W this year, including the playoff. How are you able to do that?
I'm just trying to defend as hard as I can, and there's only certain screens you're allowed to set, so just trying to trail them, and that's all I can really say.
She put up 16 points, grabbed 10 rebounds, dished out 4 assists, swatted 2 blocks, and even got a steal. And get this, she did all that while shooting 6 of 10 from the floor, including draining 3 massive triples. Each one of those threes felt like pure oxygen, just reviving Indiana whenever Vegas tried to pull ahead. Those threes weren't just numbers either. They actually tied her with a fever playoff record across 2 games, giving her 8 total. That's a feat no one expected from a player battling through back pain. Plus, those 16 points were a career playoff high, delivered right in the middle of all that chaos.
Boston has the mismatch on Lloyd. Help comes. Kick out. Hull will fire. And hit from 3. Last 2 positions inside from Indiana. Smith tied up by Hull. And a jump ball.
What made her performance so remarkable wasn't just the stats. It was how she got them. Every single possession was a war. Loose balls turned into full-blown collisions, rebounds became wrestling matches, and yet Hull never ever backed down. Cameras caught her grimacing in pain more than once, but that never stopped her from boxing out players bigger and healthier than she was. She dove on the floor for loose balls, sacrificed her body on rebounds, and still had the presence of mind to knock down threes on the other end. Each play she made wasn't just worth points. It injected life into the Fever every time the officiating tried to bleed them dry.
On the left side of the floor, just a clear out, letting Jackie Young go to work.
Jackie Young with 17 points. Boston to the corner. Hull, catch, fire, and hit. Correct call. Evans dishes. Ray whips a pass inside. What a denial from Lexie Hull.
The Hull able to save the play.
12-point game, a little under 2.5 to go. Hull hits Indiana's first field goal of the quarter.
And that's exactly why the fans rallied to her. The Gainbridge crowd isn't blind. They knew exactly what they were watching. A warrior playing through pain because her team desperately needed her. Every rebound she pulled down, every shot she drilled, it brought the crowd right back into it, even when those whistles were trying to snuff out all the energy. Hull's effort was seriously the beating heart of Indiana's resistance that night.
Eddie, back to Hull, wide open 3 is good.
The floor that she wants, doesn't it?
It does. Mitchell, connect. Here's Mitchell. Mitchell, one more. You bet.
But that's what makes the night sting even more, right? On the very same night Lexie Hull delivered the best playoff performance of her career, the conversation wasn't about her. It wasn't about her 16 points or her gutsy 10 rebounds. It was all about the referees tilting the game. The spotlight that should have been celebrating her courage was completely stolen by controversy. And maybe that's the perfect metaphor for the Fever themselves. They're underdogs, always underestimated, constantly shoved aside, yet they're still standing tall. So, let's put this in perspective. On one side, you had Hull giving absolutely everything, dragging her body through pain for her teammates. On the other, you had Aja Wilson, the supposed MVP of the league, largely absent when it mattered most. Propped up only by whistles that gave her chances Indiana never got. That contrast tells the whole story. One team earning it with sweat and sacrifice, the other being carried on the shoulders of officials who seemed more interested in protecting the Aces brand than letting the Fever's fight shine.
Offensive foul, practically a football check, and the Aces score. So now the Aces cut it to 2, and then A'ja Wilson sets an illegal screen, and they tied things up. And then Lexie Hull gets called for a foul for doing nothing when they just had 2 illegal screens they didn't call. All right, so this is fair. Same thing happens on the other side, but they don't call a foul for Kelsey Mitchell. So Leah Boston gets called for this foul for getting her arm grabbed, but Stephanie White can't challenge. They won't let her. That's the second time this game they didn't let her have her challenge. And then A'ja Wilson starts acting like a big baby.
Picture this. Think about it. The league's most decorated player, the so-called MVP, going nearly 3 full quarters without a single basket. That was A'ja Wilson in Game 3. She started the night with a confident three-pointer that looked like it might set a tone for dominance. Instead, it ended up being her only highlight for the entire first half. By halftime, she was 1 for 11 from the field, a shooting line that would embarrass even a rookie on a 10-day contract. She eventually limped her way to 6 makes on 20 attempts, totaling just 13 points on 20 shots. Let's be blunt, that's dreadful. Not just below her standards, but truly unacceptable for any WNBA starter, let alone the reigning MVP. Instead of asserting herself inside, throwing her weight around, and setting the tone like she's famous for, Wilson just floated outward, forcing contested fadeaways and mid-range prayers, visibly rattled by Aaliyah Boston's relentless defense.
And then here we go. She gets a foul call with a 3-point game for, I don't know why they called that foul, but it's the third quarter and they want them to win. So here we go. Ace is up by 3. They call another foul for A'ja Wilson that isn't a foul. All right, so then they call another foul on the Fever that isn't a foul. And then to end the game after it's out of control because the Fever had a 6-point lead, but they kept calling fouls, another foul for A'ja Wilson that's not a foul. Ball don't lie. A'ja missed 11 shots in a row during this game.
Vegas didn't. What's crazy is, the Aces didn't even need her to play like an MVP. And that's the part that really enrages fans. Even as Wilson bricked her way through 3 quarters, the Aces still walked away with the win. It wasn't because of her, it was because everything else just tilted in their favor. Jackie Young put on the kind of performance that carried them across the finish line, dropping 25 points and silencing Fever rallies with dagger jumpers. Chelsea Gray chipped in a calm and steady 15, bailing the offense out whenever it stalled. And Alyssa Smith, who's had her ups and downs this season, came up with key plays that happened to land right when Vegas needed them most. So, while Wilson clanked shot after shot, the combined efforts of her teammates, along with the steady hand of the refs, stitched together enough of a cushion to keep the scoreboard tilted their way. But here's what makes all of this sting even more. How the media spun it. Wilson's box score was screaming inefficiency, yet plenty of outlets dressed it up with platitudes about her all-around impact. You know, a rebound here, a block there, a couple of assists. Others quickly pivoted to praising the Aces' depth. But what got totally lost in translation? The real reason Wilson struggled in the first place. Aaliyah Boston. Possession after possession, Boston walled off the paint, denied space, and forced Wilson into uncomfortable low-percentage looks. When a league MVP shoots 30% on 20 attempts, that's not just an off night, that's elite defensive execution by Boston. That's a star being neutralized, plain and simple, but instead of giving Boston the credit she earned, the narrative bent over backward to protect Wilson's reputation.
2 as well.
Here's Hull. Working behind Boston. Boston was open. Great dig, and Boston lays it in.
And get this, even with all that, Wilson still managed to leave her mark, just not in ways that deserve respect. Watch closely, and you'll see it. Elbows thrown under the basket, undercuts during box outs, arms swinging dangerously into Indiana players, and almost none of it got punished. Yet somehow, she's still portrayed as a victim. Becky Hammon even had the audacity to complain post-game that Wilson only shot 1 free throw in 38 minutes. The irony? Vegas has been living at the foul line this entire series. When you're already swimming in freebies, crying about not getting more whistles isn't just laughable, it's insulting. The truth is simple. Indiana did their job. They bottled up A'ja Wilson. They executed the defensive game plan perfectly, with Boston leading the charge. And yet the Fever still lost because the officiating made sure Vegas never truly paid the price for Wilson's Brick Fest. That's why this Aces' win feels hollow. This wasn't a superstar dragging her team to victory. This was a team bailed out by whistles and secondary scorers, while their star was kept completely in check. Call it what it is, not dominance, but a protected escape.
Thought she got hit a lot tonight. To shoot one free throw in 38 minutes. I know they told me not to say anything, but I can't.
It wasn't just the losses that left a sour taste. It was the entire officiating circus that completely stole the spotlight. And that's exactly why Stephanie White finally snapped. She didn't sugarcoat anything. She didn't toe the company line. In her post-game interview, she delivered exactly what every player, every fan, and every analyst has been screaming for months. The WNBA needs a full-scale investigation into refereeing, not just some memo, not a quiet apology behind closed doors, but a real, public reckoning.
I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games. A minus 31 free throw discrepancy. And I might be able to understand it if we were just chucking threes, but we're not. We're attacking the rim. And the disrespect right now for our team has been pretty unbelievable. So it's disappointing.
Her absolute frustration was written all over her face. White has been through countless battles as a player. She's dealt with tough losses as a coach. But this was different. This wasn't just basketball. This was her team, her players, Lexie Hull putting her body on the line, Aaliyah Boston fighting through triple teams, Kelsey Mitchell battling constant pressure, all of them getting robbed of the fair stage they earned. She called it out directly. Officiating isn't just inconsistent, she said, it's compromising the integrity of the game. And she's absolutely right. Think about it. How many times have we seen Caitlin Clark get hammered the last 2 seasons with no whistle, only to watch that exact same contact get rewarded on the other end? How many times has Aaliyah Boston fought tooth and nail for position, only to get called for phantom fouls? How often do players like Hull or Mitchell get punished for hustling while opponents flop their way to free points? This series, honestly, has been the ugly culmination of a problem that's been brewing all season long.
Here's Boston, back to Hull. Sets herself up. Mitchell is free, laying it in. Been a while since Mitchell has gotten a shot attempt. Mitchell will get one here. And hit.
Stephanie White demanding accountability here is so much bigger than just the Fever. It's about protecting the very future of the league itself. Because here's the truth. Without Caitlin Clark, without the Fever, without this massive surge of new fans filling arenas and smashing TV ratings, the WNBA doesn't even have this spotlight. And yet, instead of protecting that growth, Commissioner Kathy Engelbert is sitting silent while refs tilt games and hand the defending champs lifelines they didn't earn. Fans know it. Social media knows it. Analysts know it. The only ones pretending otherwise are sitting in the league office, probably hoping all the noise just dies down. But thanks to Stephanie White, it won't. Her call for an investigation isn't just frustration. It's the first real demand for accountability from someone actually inside the machine. And if Engelbert ignores it, well then the message to fans is pretty clear. The league doesn't care about fairness. It only cares about protecting its chosen teams. So here's the bottom line. White's demand has already put the spotlight back exactly where it belongs, on the corrupt officiating that's dragging this league down. And if there's any justice left in basketball, her words will be the spark that finally forces the WNBA to fix its dirtiest secret.
I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games. A minus 31 free throw discrepancy. And I might be able to understand it if we were just chucking threes, but we're not. We're attacking the rim. And the disrespect right now for our team has been pretty unbelievable. So it's disappointing.
The Indiana Fever versus the Las Vegas Aces? That wasn't just a basketball series, it was a total heist playing out on national television. Everyone was stunned when Indiana stole Game 1 in Vegas. But after that, everything changed. The Aces didn't just fight back with their talent, they got some serious help from the refs. The whistles were so lopsided it barely looked like a real competition. Stephanie White, the Fever coach, was not staying quiet. After the game, in one of her most emotional interviews ever, she basically demanded a full-on league investigation into WNBA officiating. Fans in the arena saw it, social media blew up about it, and the box score confirmed it. The Aces weren't really beating Indiana, they were just getting handed wins. And the worst part? All those phantom whistles completely overshadowed the grit, the resilience, and the pure heart the Fever brought to the court every single night.